Okay, this is Jose J.G. Gonzalez's show, and a guy is about to speak. He's Bob the Science Guy. He's going to call us dishonest if we're a flat earther, that we're all dishonest, but we're going to find out in a few minutes that he's not too honest himself.
We got Dr. Bro. Dr. Bro, you were listening for a little bit. A message for the audience and your final thoughts?
I listened to most of the show.
Very nice.
My final thoughts, all flat earthers are dishonest, if to nobody but themselves.
If you are there for final
Okay.
thoughts for the peeps listening.
This is a final thought for me, but it's really a question.
Yeah, just a question which I have no clue about. I've just started looking at. Maybe was that Dr. Bob that was just talking?
Yes, but we're going to finish the final thoughts first. And
Well, no, this is a final thought, but it's kind of a question that maybe he can answer at some point.
Yeah.
The tracking, you've got tracking rates for stars, you got tracking rates for the sun, different tracking rates for the moon. But what are the planets? Do they move? Do they rise and set at the same point every day on the horizons, or do they move back and forth like the sun and moon do? And what would be their tracking rate versus like stars or the sun? The sun is an average of 24. The stars are 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds. So I'm just wondering what the planets are and tracking rates.
Hold that.
Okay, the main question I had there was the movement of planets in relation to the horizon and their tracking rate. Stars have a specific tracking rate of 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds. It's called a sidereal day. So the star will reach the same point in the sky 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds later. The sun averages 24 hours to reach solar noon. It's an average. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more. The moon is a little different. It averages around 25 hours, plus or minus, so sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And it definitely moves on the horizons back and forth. You can see it if you sit in a specific place and watch the moon rise or the moon set. You can see how it moves against the horizon. Same way with the sun. Stars do not move. They will rise at the same point in the horizon and set at the same point at the horizon every day. But Bob's not going to say that. He knows the ramifications. Okay, Bob is about to come on. He's going to answer my questions, and I'm going to answer some back or talk back with him, have a little chat. But he's going to lie in this one.
Boom.
I can't see daily nonsense yet.
Gary, I recall your question, but the audience may not. So if you would, please go ahead and ask it again, and I'll answer it.
Okay. Okay, you've got like a sidereal rate for stars, right? And we know that the stars will always rise and set from wherever you live. The same stars you see in your sky will rise and set at the same point on each horizon every day, right? And the sun, we know it's an average of 24 hours if you track it. And the moon is a little different. It's a little more complicated. But I'm just wondering about the planets, because I can't find any information. It just says basically track them with the sidereal rate like the stars, but then you'll have to manually adjust your camera once in a while, and that it's okay for just a short distance or a short amount of time, like basically when the planets are in the center of the sky or more, more high in the sky. But I'm just wondering if they have a tracking rate, or if they're all different, and if they rise and set at the same points on the horizon every day, or if they move back and forth like you see the sun doing. Sorry, that's kind of long.
That's
Well, the
okay.
exact rate varies throughout the year.
Yeah, it's actually an excellent question. First of all, the stars and the planets and the moon and the sun do not rise at the same spot on the horizon every day.
Okay, there's his first lie. And he knows he did it. I'm sure he knows. Because he does astrophotography. He tracks these things across the sky with his telescope. He set up his own little domed observatory where he lives. So anyhow, he is correct in the sense that, no, they don't all rise and set at the same point every day. except for the stars. The stars rise and set at the same point every day. The sun doesn't, the moon doesn't, and I realize now, because I found some more information, that they move back and forth, just not as drastic as the sun or moon. But the stars definitely don't move.
They all move.
Stars do.
No, they don't. They all
Yes.
move.
You just see, he just said, no, they don't. I said the stars do. They rise and set, same point, every day. Anyhow, first lie, and that's the basic lie.
They do. I watch them across the sky every day. They move. They rise and set at the same point in where I live every day. They don't move. The sun does move back and forth on the horizons, definitely, no doubt about it, and so does the moon. So you can see them literally moving.
I'm not gonna. Look, I actually have knowledge in this.
He has knowledge. Well, his knowledge has fallen short. He does know a little bit about tracking and stuff. He is wrong about the stars. He did lie. He knows they don't. And the reason he lies is probably because I've been bringing this up for years now, that if the Earth is orbiting the sun, that it would necessarily have to change where we see stars rise and set on the horizons. It doesn't, because the Earth isn't orbiting the sun. It's the sun circling around the Earth over the flat circle Earth. And so does everything else. The stars do, the planets do. They all move in circular patterns. They spiral inward and outward. And that's what gives us all of our angles.
And I'm not going to argue with you about.
Well, just give me.
If you want to debate reality with me, to go do it with someone else. You ask.
Do you change your telescope for the stars every night? No. The star.
He's going to get very quiet because he knows, and he's getting mad, which he always does.
All you do is adjust it for the time they're going to rise based on the 23-hour 50.
Yes, sidereal time. So if you want to take a picture of a star in the exact same spot as the previous night, you have to take that picture 23 hours and 56 minutes and 4.1 seconds later, not 24 hours. It's about a little less than 4 minutes difference each day.
It's a minute and 4.1 seconds, but it's going to rise in the same spot. But I'm just the planets. Do they rise?
Which it rises in the same spots because the Earth is not orbiting the sun, nor is it tilted or anything else, which is what his reason is going to be for why the planets and the sun and the moon are seen in different places every day. He's going to attribute it to tilt of the Earth and the Earth orbit around the sun.
Set at the same point, or do they move back and forth like the sun does on the horizons? And what would be their tracking rates, or where would you find the information? I'm not going to answer.
I'm not going to argue with you, Gary. Now,
Well,
as
just-
I said,
Obviously, they have a tracking rate, right?
Gary, you interrupt me one more.
They all do have different tracking rates. The tracking rate from the stars is the sidereal rate that I keep telling you. The tracking rate for the sun, it's pretty close to 15 degrees per hour. That's an average, though. The stars are not 15 degrees per hour. By the way, the 15 degrees per hour claim is what the Globies have been telling us for years, since we've been arguing these things back and forth, that you can track anything from horizon to horizon at 15 degrees per hour because the Earth rotates 15 degrees per hour. Well, it's simply not true, because nothing is at 15 degrees per hour in the sky. Nothing. The sun averages that. Nothing else hits that 15 degrees per hour, and their EQ mounts fail at the horizons every time unless they adjust the tracking rate to a slower rate, because the Earth isn't a globe.
More time, we're done.
Go ahead, Bob.
Go on mute. Go on mute before I answer.
No, I will keep quiet.
This is Bob, always wanting to control the situation. He thinks he's the boss. He thinks he's smarter than everybody. But he gave in.
I'm going to go on mute.
No, you're going to go on mute, or if you want.
I'm not going to go on mute. Be quiet. Just go ahead. I will be quiet until you finish. When you say you're done, I will come in.
Try
Okay,
it, Bob.
Bob, you
Try it,
can
Bob.
ask the question.
Try it, Bob, because I know he interrupted twice, but try. If he's not going to mute, he's not going to interrupt. Let's see how legit he is. Let's give him a try.
Well, for you, Jose. First of all, stars and planets and the moon and the sun do not rise at the same spot on the horizon every night because
Well, he's right on 3 of the 4. The stars do rise and set at the same point, as I will show you in a few minutes from the U.S. Naval Observatory, their program, their internet, their website. They have all of this in there. You can enter the stars, or you can enter the planets, or you can enter the sun, or you can enter the moon. It'll tell you where it's going to rise and where it's going to set, where it's going to be at its height in the sky when it's due south. They're going to have all that in there. And you'll see the stars never change. Never. They rise and set at the same point every day, and their height in the sky is at the same point every day when observed from the same place every day.
our tilt changes relative to them. Second of all,
See our tilt.
you track the planets with sidereal rate.
Yes, because it's fairly similar, but it's not the same. But when he's taking photographs, they're just a short period of time. And they have a tendency to take these photos when whatever they're photographing is high in the sky, because it doesn't matter. It's the way the angles are to the sky. It doesn't matter much, and it's just a short time. But if you're going to track it from horizon to horizon, or over 24 hours, it's a whole nother ball game.
Now, even something like asteroids move on the average of an arc second or less every minute, which means that in a 20 second or 30 second shot of Mars or Jupiter, even a 2 or 3 minute shot of them where you're taking a series of them, it's not going to move significantly other than sidereal rate. The moon itself moves half a degree faster than sidereal rate due to its orbit. And the sun, of course, as we orbit the Earth, or as we orbit the sun, the relative position of the sun changes along with the tilt in the atmosphere, and the tilt of our axis. So the answer is you follow them with sidereal rate, and in the times that you're photographing the...
I'm also going to show you, but it'll probably be in another video, his whole tilt theory is completely wrong. And I'll show you during the time of the solstice for the sun.
The planets, it will not change enough. You don't have to take into account its orbital speed or anything. So I'm done.
Thank you. Don't just be quiet. So anyhow, I disagree with him on. I know the sun changes every day because you can literally watch the sun rise a little bit more north each day right now as it moves towards going overhead in Cancer. The moon, I disagree with him on because it actually moves more than probably even faster than the sun. It just moves sideways more, so it kind of ends up taking a little bit longer overall to reach the same point the next day. Obviously, about 25 hours average. The sun is an average of 24 hours. It's not 24 hours, it's an average, right? Solar noon is a little bit different every day. I just can't figure out, and I can't find the information for where you can see the planets rise. I can watch it on my apps. I can see where they're coming up, and they look like they're coming up in the same part every day and setting in the same part every day. But
yes, lately I just started looking at this recently in regards to the planets. So you have an app, and you can point it at the night sky, and you can see the ecliptic, which is the path of the sun, and the planets. A bunch of the planets are fairly in line with that ecliptic. Some are like right on it, some are just to the side of it. And so I was wondering if they follow the path of the sun and move back and forth just like the sun, or if they just happen to be right now in that territory and they don't move near as much, which it turns out all the planets are different. Some move farther south and farther north, some move less. You'll see when I show some of these figures in a second video.
their tracking rate is slightly different than the stars if you actually follow them throughout the night and check over the course.
Well, some of the planets are right about even with the sun, or with the star tracking rate, and so it won't make much difference for photography. But some of the planets are not the same as the tracking rate for the stars, and so that it would make a difference, especially over a day.
Of a few days. So I know their tracking rate is slightly different.
Not different enough to make a difference when you're photographing them.
He always likes to say when you're photographing them, but that wasn't what the question was about. It's just where do they rise and set, and do they have a different tracking rate than the stars? That was the question. But he knows if he just keeps saying photography, that people will just, hand wave it away like it doesn't matter, but it does.
No, I'm just talking about when you're tracking them across the sky. I don't care about the photographs. I know the photographs can be done in a short portion of the sky.
The difference between photographing the planets, which are quite bright, and say nebula, which are quite dim, is you use multiple long exposures for deep sky objects, but you do, thousands of very short exposures for things like the moon and planets in order to get them sharp.
Yeah, but that's not actually what I was asking. That's nice information, and I'm sure you're right on that. But I'm just asking if you tried to track them with a EQ mount, you would have to keep them centered in your field of view. You would have to have a specific tracking rate, wouldn't you, for each planet? They would all be different, right?
You have one.
I can't find them.
It's called the sidereal rate.
Well, no,
There he goes. And that's what the information you can find. It says just do it at the sidereal rate because it doesn't make much difference for photography. But it does make a difference over the course of a day. And if you're going to take a picture the next night.
Thing I see says just go ahead and use it for photography because it's not going to make much difference. Because it's not going to move that much different. But if you're going to track from horizon to horizon, it would make a difference. And especially if you were going to do it over the course of a few days.
Yes,
it has to be different.
Very much. Yes,
you would see it move against the background stars, right?
Yes, it does make a difference, but it's not enough to be relevant over a few days. All right.
Of course it's relevant. It's just silly to say otherwise.
Right, but over the course of the day,
will not move out of your field of view.
Okay, so now let's say
it will not move out of your field of view. Keywords. But it will move out of the center of the frame, which is what they try to keep their objects being tracked in the center of the frame. It will move out of the center frame. It'll still be within the field of view for at least a day, maybe 2 days. Probably closer to a day.
For the course of 2 weeks, are you going to see a significant difference against the stars of the one planet, like Jupiter?
Yes.
You're going to see a significant difference, right? Yeah.
And the way that you can adjust for that is use what's called the orbital elements of the planet, and it will predict exactly where the planet will be at any particular moment, and you can track by orbital elements in addition.
Yeah, these orbital elements will predict based on the actual motion of the planet compared to the stars. They do have a different rate. Thanks, Bob.
To the standard sidereal rates and things like that. That's how you find satellites and such.
Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks for the information. I'm just curious. I got a feeling I know why you have planets look like they appear going backwards once in a while. But I got to work.
Okay. I'm going to pause for a second and I'm going to show you information off the U.S. Naval Observatory website. Okay, this is rise and set times for where I live here near Fresno. You can see it's U.S. Naval Observatory. This is an official government website. So anyhow, gives my latitude and stuff like that. Now it's going to give like rise times, set times. It'll give the time or the degree in the sky, the height in the sky, and what time, which would be solar time, which would be the middle column, where it says like 11:58. For that would have been today. As you'll see, solar time, solar noon is not the same every day. It's an average of 24 hours. Now the column where it says 521 and then it has 76 degrees. 76 degrees is the azimuth where you will see the sun rising at that degree on the horizon in the east. And then it sets, you'll see in the one of the far right columns, at 284. So then tomorrow, the next day, it'll be 285, then 285, then 286, then 286, because it's moving north, and it'll do the same in the other column. It'll go from 521 to 520, because the sun will rise a little bit earlier and set slightly later each day until it reaches around June 6th, which I'll show you that in a second, because that's kind of a funny thing. So you can see there's a consistent rise in a different place each day. It rises and sets slightly at a different point each day. Solar noon is at a slightly different time each day. And as it gets towards June 6th, it'll reach a height in the sky of, let's see, where we'll get to it. Okay, we got the 6th over here. It'll be 76 degrees in the sky. It'll be the height of the sun for the summer. And it will set at 300 degrees. It will rise at 61 on this day, but the next day it'll be down to 60. Now it'll rise at 60 for the next 29 days, for 29 days in a row until July 5 will be the last day it does. And it'll set each day at 300 degrees. So it's not changing at any point there. It'll rise. Oh, I said 76 a minute ago for the sun, but it's 77 is the height. But anyway, it's such a small change. They don't even note it, except for on the height of the that solar noon. But you can see solar noon when it's like something got the dog. Okay. Well, anyhow, we see like about a 29 to 30 day stretch in June around the solstice where the sun rises and sets at the same point each day. By the way, it does the same thing in December for about the same amount of time. So every time around the solstice, it's just like the sun, or it's like the Earth in the globe model. The Earth must be taking a pit stop or a rest break from orbiting the sun. So anyhow, let me show you some information on a star. Okay, this is the star I picked. There's numerous ones that they have there that you can pick, and they'll all do the same thing. This is Sirius. 111 is the degree it will rise on the east. 37 degrees at its height in the sky when it's south, due south. And the last column, it will set at 249 degrees. Now you see, those never change. This is over 100 days. You can do it for 365 days if you want. You can set it for whatever amount of days you want. It never changes. Stars rise and set at the same point. Now, of course, Bob earlier said they don't. So Bob lied. And Bob knows this, but Bob doesn't like the consequences of because this literally means that the Earth isn't orbiting the sun while simultaneously chasing the sun through endless space. It would have to change. It would necessarily have to change. It couldn't do otherwise. I'll pick one more star just to show, but they can find this on the U.S. Naval Observatory site, and they can try numerous. Okay, this is Vega. So it's going to give the same thing. Rise 38 degrees, set 322. It's north of me, so it's going to give a north measurement for altitude. So it'll be 88 degrees north. And you can tell there's about 4 minutes between each successive day, which is right around the sidereal rate of 3 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds, or 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds for the star to reach its same point in the sky the next night. So anyhow, Never changes. 38, 88, 322, 38, 88, 322. I've got it for 100 days. You can set it for whatever amount of days you want. Never changes. The stars follow the same exact path across the sky. They don't change. The Earth is not orbiting the sun and chasing the sun through endless space, like the globe model says. I'll do one more for good measure. There's another 10 or so that they have listed that are major stars. Here's Arcturus. So it will rise at 65 degrees. Set at its height in the sky will be at 72 degrees south because it's south of me. So its height will always be south of me. And it sets at 295. Which is quite interesting. Anyhow, you can see that it's the same point every day. So anyhow, Bob lied. All these other guys tell me I'm lying when I say the stars rise and set at the same point every day. But this is from the Naval Observatory. This is their data. These guys can cry and moan all they want. They're wrong. And the Earth isn't orbiting the sun. And the sun isn't flying through space towards some galactic center while we're orbiting it. All of that, if it was doing that, would have to change where we see everything in the sky in relation to stars. The stars, the sun, the moon, and the planets all have their own circular motion set by God because He created them to be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years in Genesis chapter 1. And that's exactly what they do. It's a clock calendar. It points to a creator. It displays His majesty and His glory. And they can deny it all they want because almost every one of these guys literally hates the idea of God, including Bob.